One of the next locomotives is Hornby A4 Silver Fox. It's DCC fitted. I think it came as part of a train pack with three of the Hornby LMS sort of railroad coaches, but they were finished in the beautiful light grey and silver of the Silver Jubilee train. However, they were not at all prototypical. The Silver Jubilee train had articulated coaches, and the Hornby ones were just the standard LMS railroad coach, nothing else done to it apart from the livery. So I decided to investigate whether I could actually make my own coaches for this. I think you can buy kits for some of them, but in the meantime I discovered a guy in America selling off some coaches, and so I bought those, and then I made a couple more myself from the Hornby originals by adding the I don't know what you call them, fairings along the underframe, and also with articulation rather than the normal coaches. So here comes Silver Fox with a nice train of articulated coaches. They need some tweaking, the coaches, because they do cause quite a lot of drag going round corners, going round curves, that is. The next loco about to appear is a Bachmann C1 Atlantic, designed by Henry Ivett, I believe, for the Great Northern Railway. So technically this one's not in LNER livery, it's in Great Northern livery. And I bought this one very recently. It's my most recent acquisition from TMC, the Model Centre, and it was weathered by them. I'm normally not a great fan of weathered locomotives, but this was half price, so I couldn't resist a bargain. I'd been hoping to get a C1 for quite a while. Yeah, the Backman C1 is a very smooth runner, very quiet runner, and it's managing to pull 5 Gresley kit-built coaches without any difficulty. See, the last one's got a bit of a wobble on it. I shall have to adjust the weight on that. So there is the C1 Atlantic. As I say, it's a weathered version, and the weathering is fairly subtle. I don't think a model like this particularly needs weathering. I think that's probably why it was being sold at half price. You know, a GNER liveried preserved locomotive, people probably want it in museum quality livery, so I suspect it's not one that would really appeal so much to buyers. But it appealed to me, and I'm just going to show you the rake of Gresley kit-built coaches. If you see, well, there's an example. I've gone in quite close. Can you see how closely coupled the two coaches are? They're even closer on the first pair. You can barely see a gap between the coaches. Moving back, there we are, fairly close. There's a bit more of a gap between the last two coaches, and I need to adjust the coupling on the bogies of one of them. The reason I'm showing you that is because I can't understand why Hornby and Backman produce such elaborate close coupling systems with their coaches, with the sort of cam arrangement where it extends going round corners. These coaches run perfectly well on second radius curves with only a very small gap between them. I mean, the gap between those two is, well, I reckon the two corridor connectors are about 2 to 3 millimeters apart. That's all you need. And really, if I can do that with kit-built coaches, why engineer such an elaborate cam mechanism? It's just not needed. Design the buffers and the bogies better and fit the couplings in the correct place on the bogies, and you'd have coaches that could easily couple together very, very closely. As Hornby found with their original Gresley coaches, the railroad models, they couple really closely. Why have they made things so much worse? Anyway, let's have another look at the C1 Atlantic. This model it's nicely weathered. It's got real coal in the tender. It's got all the fire irons there on the tender. I haven't fitted things like the brake rodding and various other bits and pieces yet, but to be honest, it looks really good straight out of the box. So there we are, Great Northern C1 Atlantic. Here we have a kit-built J72. I think it's a Beck body kit, and it's running on a Triang chassis. Unfortunately, the Triang chassis is not great, and its flanges of the wheels are too big for my points, so it'll rattle across the points a bit. But it's working. I'm looking to replace the chassis with a Hornby J15 chassis. I just need to do a little bit more work on the body so it can fit the J15 chassis in it. It runs quite well when using a feedback controller, not quite so good with just a standard DC controller. Now here we have a beautiful Hornby Great Northern J13, I think it was J52, in LNER days. Seems to be going rather fast through the station. Not as smooth a runner as some of the latest Hornby models, but still not bad. It's got a chassis from the 1980s or 70s. It's a beautiful train, and if I move my Great Northern Atlantic with its rake of Gresleys out the way, we'll take a closer look at it. But it's pulling a rake of 4 of the generic Hornby coaches, and the GNER Atlantic is just going to come past in the foreground. I think I'll choose a better spot to photograph the J13. We'll get it going. Oh, little hesitation, that's a shame. It's probably going a bit too fast, but this is a 1970s or 1980s chassis, so it can't crawl quite as well as a more modern one. Next, coming off the branch line from the carriage sidings, we have a Backman J72 hauling some Hornby Gresley coaches. And this can represent the station pilot, bring the coaches into the station to be picked up by whichever train is taking them on to their destination. I know the Backman J72 and the mainline version before it was not the greatest model ever made, and it has its faults with split chassis and problems with axles breaking and things, but it is a really beautiful locomotive, and I got this one for about £25 off eBay, and at that price you can't really go wrong, to be honest. And not to be outdone, we have a mainline J72, which is just a beautiful little locomotive. My mainline J72 was sold with a fault indicated on the listing that it had a typical problem with the split chassis, but still runs quite well, and it cost me about £15, and it's the bodywork that I like so much. And here comes his more modern brother with the mainline, with the Backman chassis.